Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
And we got BTC workers in a contract standoff with management. We've got that story.
The Minister of Tourism speaks on low occupancy rates at Baha Mar.
Our news is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Happy Halloween and welcome to our news, and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Topping news tonight, newly elected Progressive Liberal Party leader Philip Brave Davis hit back at Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, who characterized the PLP as a weak and broken and arrogant party that cannot change. Davis insisted that efforts by the governing party to malign and destroy the PLP won't work, adding Bahamians did not vote for the Free National Movement, they voted against the PLP. Bonnie Toot reports.
Branding Dr. Hubert Minnis a planless and visionless leader who chooses to criticize instead of govern, PLP leader Philip Brave Davis shrugged off the Prime Minister's recent assertion that the organization is weak, broken, and arrogant. Speaking at the MCM celebratory ball Saturday night, Minnis told a room of F&M supporters that the PLP cannot and will not change, adding his claims are supported by the party's decision to elect Davis as leader. However, Davis says the governing party efforts to malign and destroy the PLP will not work.
The Progressive Party is a party that is the oldest, strongest, resilient party in this country and will continue to do. Yes, the party requires some renewing and it requires some rebuilding, rebuilding of trusts, etc. among the Bahamian people, but we'll be able to do that. Their efforts to malign and to destroy the PLP will fail, and will fail, because the PLP is bigger than me.
Following the PLP's shattering defeat in the May 10th general election, longtime leader Perry Christie left frontline politics, resulting in a leadership battle between Davis and Anglerston MP Glenys Hannah Martin. Davis crushed Hannah Martin, capturing an overwhelming majority of votes. Davis says it is his job to ensure the PLP regains the trust of Bahamians and suggested that the F&M won the election by default.
They did not vote for the F&M. They voted against us.
Pointing to the PLP's recent convention, Minnis questioned how the party could lead a country when it couldn't run a convention. The F&M has had its own chaotic conventions after a kumbaya movement between Minnis and then-contender Loretta Butler Turner fell apart. Davis says clearly Minnis has not been able to distinguish between campaigning and governing.
So far to date, visionless, planless, and we don't know exactly where he's taking the country. I suspect he's still having the challenges that he had when he was in opposition.
What makes you say that?
Just see what is happening now.
Like what?
Well, for example, what are their plans for moving the economy? What is happening in Grand Bahama?
New party chairman Fred Mitchell intends to make public a report submitted by a Jamaican political strategy expert on why the PLP lost the recent election. Davis says while they all have their own opinions on why the governing party was voted out, the report drew this conclusion.
That the PLP is still considered the most viable political machine to govern this country. And that is in the minds of the majority of Bahamian people. We just need to find the right vehicle to get them attracted to us once again, to vote for us and to have the confidence and trust in us to carry the vehicle to where the expectations of Bahamian people requires them to be.
Reporting for our news, I'm Bonnie Toot.
The PLP leader also defended past PLP governments and cautioned the Prime Minister against making what Davis called disgraceful and unacceptable statements on crime. During a handing over ceremony at police headquarters yesterday, Dr. Minnis said the crime problem the Bahamas faces today was set in motion by sins of the Bahamas. Minnis asserted that the Bahamas became a nation for sale in the 1970s and 80s and a narco state while the government of the day turned a blind eye to the merchants of drugs and death.
Dr. Minnis has to be careful of the words his speechwriters are putting in his mouth. He has to understand the state of play. He has to understand our history and appreciate it. For him to adopt the propaganda of the 70s and 60s to make it fact today is really unacceptable and a disgraceful display by him.
Davis says he was part of the judiciary during that period and encouraged Minnis to learn the facts about Bahamian history instead of blaming a former government for the challenges his administration currently faces with crime.
The very government that he is complaining about today and cascading today and blaming today's problems on was praised. Prior to 1992 was praised because it was praised by the international community, particularly the United States government, for the efforts that they had engaged in over the previous years that reduced narco trafficking to what they call an irreducible minimum. He needs to read his history.
Davis also urged the Minnis administration to come up with a viable crime plan to address the soaring murder rate.
They need to stop blaming. This is not the time to blame Storm, but rather to brainstorm. He has to bring forward the details of the plans they have to arrest this rising criminality that we see here today. And they obviously have no plans. All of a sudden, there's no quick fix for them. On the campaign trail, they had the answer.
Some major changes coming to Bahamas Power and Light. The state-owned power company set to replace 3 foreign workers with Bahamians. But it's how much the government is expected to save in this exercise that may surprise you.
Redistribution of responsibilities would replace 3 expatriates with 7 Bahamian employees, saving the corporation some $3.3 million. And as much as possible, international benchmarks were followed in formulating the structure that is now governing BPL.
Press Secretary Anthony Newbold, during his weekly press briefing, also explaining that BPL is dealing with a number of financial and environmental issues like the oil leak at Clifton. Now, as for the new updated business plan, the deadline for that to be turned over to Cabinet was today. He said the public should see that plan tabled in Parliament sometime soon, in addition to another BPL recommendation to the Cabinet.
The board also tells the Cabinet that the Cabinet may need to amend the Electricity Act, the Rate Reduction Bond Act, and Articles of Association documents which became necessary as a result of these new developments at BPL. So that's something that we may see in the House of Assembly shortly as well.
77 contract workers are refusing to sign what they call an insulting new contract with the Bahamas telecommunications company. Workers accuse the company of trying to strong-arm them into signing the deal, which they claim includes a 60% pay cut. Here's Jared Higgs.
For me personally, I really take a stand and say, guess what? Keep your contract. I'll do better by myself.
Amen.
Corey Smith has worked for BTC for 27 years, so when he and dozens of other contract workers were given a deadline to sign a new contract, they weren't pleased. Smith says the new deal would significantly reduce the company's obligation to these workers, as well as cut their pay by more than 60%. He says the fact that each of them weren't given a contract to peruse is even more insulting.
And then you can tell me that I have to sign something I've never seen before. You could tell me as the new second man in charge that I must come on, you give me my contract and let me allow myself to go charge my lawyer. And then all of a sudden now, this is the deadline, you all didn't meet the deadline, you all are fired. Come on, fire me if you wish, but I guarantee you all can feel the pain.
36-year veteran Bertram Cartwright says communications from the company's management have been contradictory. He says the workers were instructed to return BTC's equipment today, but later on were provided with work assignments for the day. He says their willingness to work is proof that they want to negotiate in good faith.
We have a rapport with a lot of the persons that are customers to BTC. Some of them have personal numbers that would even call us when they have their issues, and we work things out with them. I don't see why BTC is headed this route in treating us as the way they are.
BCPOU President Bernard Evans says when the company originally severed ties with the workers in 2015, they promised to help them form a service company that would have first right to refusal to perform work for BTC. Evans alleges that BTC is actively attempting to renege on that agreement.
We understand that the company intends to give the contract to a former employee who left more than 10 years ago. I stand to be corrected in that. But there's no way in hell that we're going to sit here and allow something that was drawn up, that was promised to these men and women in this room, that they can give it to an outsider. There's no way in hell we're going to allow that. All right? So if they think that they're going to try and strong arm and strangle, put a stranglehold on it and try to force them to sign something that is not in their best interests, then BTC have another thing coming.
Because these workers are not officially represented by the BCPOU, Evans wrote to BTC requesting to act as the bargaining agent for the workers. BTC denied his request, but he says he intends to take the matter up to the umbrella union, the National Congress of Trade Unions. Reporting for our news, I'm Jared Higgs.
Minister of Labor Dion Folk says he is currently in discussions with the president of the Bahamas Communications and Public Officers Union to get a full understanding of what is happening with those 77 contract workers on New Providence and Grand Bahama who are at odds with BTC executive management over contracts.
The board at BTC, along with the management team, have made certain decisions with respect to a certain group of employees. I'm speaking to Mr. Bernard Evans, who is the spokesman for that group. I spoke to him this morning, and I'm going to speak to him again this evening to see to what extent we can bring a resolution to the matter.
What exactly is the situation?
I am trying to get full carriage of it at this time. I do not know what all the issues are. It came to my attention, actually I was off the island. It came to my attention on Friday.
Folk says while he does not want to speak prematurely, he does have confidence that they can resolve the matter.
These are persons who several years ago were offered contracts and they separated their normal terms of employment with BTC. And they went on individual contracts. It was a group of them. This happened 2, 3, 4 years ago. And their management wants to issue a new contract under new terms. And there's a whole question of the notice period for those contracts. And that is what I am in discussion with now.
Officers of the Police Force Mobile Division had a close call last night as a routine traffic stop resulted in an exchange of fire, according to Senior Assistant Commissioner of Police Stephen Dean.
Shortly after 8:30 last night, police from the mobile unit were on routine patrol on the Market Street area when they saw a suspicious vehicle driving in the area. Chase ensued. The vehicle went through several corners off the Market Street corridor and ended up on King Street, where two males came out of the vehicle, armed with handguns. They opened fire at police. Police returned fire. These two males ran off. Police were able to capture one of the males in the vehicle and got a loaded handgun.
Dean warned criminals not to go up against police who are trained to deal with these type of situations.
We are still looking for those two persons. We can tell you that during the process, the police vehicle was damaged by gunshot. We want to thank our officers for the courageous effort because it could have been much worse for our officers. This just shows the complexity with what we are dealing with, the crime out there, that our officers are under constant threat in some cases and danger, but in most cases we are prepared for such situations.
Amid confusion over China Construction America's missed Baha Mar deadline this month, Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar says he finds the mega resort's low occupancy frustrating. Here's Giorgio Bain.
With the Baha Mar resort months into its operation, the Minister of Tourism says he's beginning to get frustrated with low occupancy rates that were apparently set in place by the management of the resort.
De Aguilar says he recently met with the executive team of the Baha Mar Resort, where he was informed that the property is only aiming for 25% occupancy at this time. Earlier this month, the resort reported that bookings were on the anticipated pace, but according to De Aguilar, he would much rather the resort aim for 100%.
As the Minister of Tourism, I want occupancies at 100%. And it is mildly frustrating to me that it's taking as long as it is to get the property up and running. But you know, we've questioned them, we've talked to them, they say this is their plan. Other than me stepping in and taking over day-to-day running of the hotel, which I have no intention of doing, I must rely on them to execute their plan. They obviously have a plan, so let them execute it.
It's not the first time the mega resort's low occupancy has come up. Back in June, De Aguilar revealed Baha Mar's occupancy was under 25%, something he attributed to what he called its premature opening. The tourism's comments come amid uncertainty over the completion deadline and sale of Baha Mar. China Construction America missed the October 15 deadline for substantial completion of the resort, even as Baha Mar officials insisted they were happy with CCA's progress.
I understand that we're at that critical point now where construction is nearing to an end. I'm sure they're working through their punch lists. The SLS is about to open this month, so that is going to come on stream. But you know, that's that we keep asking them, as you keep asking me, what is their plan, and that, as far as I know, is their plan. I haven't heard anything to the contrary. They haven't said anything different to me. The intention, as I say, is to open SLS this month and the Rosewood in the first quarter of next year, with a grand opening expected to happen, a real grand opening, not a fake grand opening, a real grand opening expected to happen in April of 2018.
Despite his frustrations, Diagler says he understands that once the training process for the anticipated 6,000 employees is complete, the resort will take steps to ramp up occupancy numbers.
That is what has been planned. When I went to Baha Mar and I said, what is your plan for 2017? They said, our plan for 2017 is an occupancy level of 25%. That's what they told me. So as they ramp up, as they train people, you know, you can't open the resort until you have all of the amenities available. So they have to get the restaurants open, they have to get the shops open. It doesn't make sense to invite everybody to your new hotel, advertise it, get them there, and nothing's open.
Reporting for R News, I'm Georgie O'Bain.
Still to come on our news, the Halloween edition, environmentalists raise concerns over a sunken barge on Abaco. Stay with us.